saying, you're babbling, I want to know what created logic, right? Come on, bring it to me. There is two scenarios that are logical. The one is that there is nothing, and the other one is that there is infinite chaos, that everything exists. Obviously, we don't live in the one where there is nothing. And obviously, we also don't live in the one where there is infinite chaos, because you have all this order. Now you got to start wondering, if you can explain how order can emerge from chaos, and this specific order, then you have your answer. I studied a lot of quantum mechanics and physics to understand this question. And the deeper I went into quantum mechanics, the deeper I saw that the way I looked at the world was just flawed. I look at an object, right? And I go like, this exists, right? It's solid. But the more I understood the nature of reality and understood that this consists of like trillions and trillions and trillions of small little particles that pop in and out of existence, this is merely a concept of my mind. You're seeing a bottle, you identify with a bottle, but it's more like an emotional trick of the brain, and that's it. In reality, this is merely things that pop in and out of existence all the time. This is mere information. And you might wonder like, okay, I can understand that. I mean, if I play World of Warcraft, that's also merely information. But how do you explain this consistent reality if you just have information? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, let me assume like I can accept that everything is information, but that still doesn't explain how we have, you know, this perfect order, because this information would be ultimate chaos, right? How do we have order out of chaos? That doesn't make any sense. People that are a little bit more into, you know, math and stuff and more in chaos theory will already know that this is incorrect, because you can have order out of chaos. But for the people that don't get it, I will make it very simple. Imagine you have to be able to visualize it and conceptualize it and simplify it, and that's what I'm going to be doing here now. Infinite chaos could be represented with ones and zeros. Infinite ones and zeros in complete chaos. They mean nothing, just ones and zeros everywhere. So how would you, from that, come into, you know, what we experience now as a consistent life pattern? How do you get that out of this infinite ones and zeros? And there's a few things you have to understand. First of all, the following. Even if there is infinite amount of ones and zeros, you can say there is 50% ones and 50% zeros. There is 25% 1-0 combination, or 1-1 combination, or 0-1 combination, or 0-0 combination. So basically, as the information package gets bigger, right, the amount and frequency of it coming in relative to others becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. Therefore, if you express yourself, right, you will automatically be the most compressed version from an information perspective. You might wonder, okay, this is a bit weird. Okay, what do you mean? If you look at a black screen and you save it, when you go to the settings, you can save it as a BMP. A BMP is a much larger file than a JPEG, even though when you show the image on the screen, it's both a black screen. In both states, even though one contains more data, the representation on the screen is the same. And if this screen would be our consciousness, we would automatically be the most compact information that expresses itself, because it's more likely. That sounds really logical. So now you might still wonder like, okay, I understand that, but what about time and space? When you go to quantum mechanics, you start seeing that like time and space does not fully apply. There's particles going back and forward all the time, and you have quantum entanglement, where, you know, one particle can switch instantly while the other ones switch, as if there is no space in between. So time and space, you can, like, if you're thinking very logical, you can understand like, okay, time and space are just merely our interpretation of reality, but that still doesn't understand, okay, I understand that I'm the most compressed version. I understand that. I can put that. Okay, I understand that time and space are merely a result of this compressed information. Okay, just like in World of Warcraft, when you go and you look at the space with a VR headset, you're like, the space that you experience like in WoW is just digital, right? Okay, but this understanding has drastic consequences. The first one is, if everything is information, you can't say 1 + 1 = 2 anymore. The way we go about things is based on how we understand the real world. We say 1 + 1 is 2. But of course, if on a fundamental level everything is information, you can't just say you add 2 movie files together and then therefore you have another movie file. You can't do that. You literally cannot do that. You can't say, like, if I cut the movie file of the Matrix in 2, I have 2 movie files, and if I add them back together, we have, you know, the movie of the Matrix. Like, you can do that digitally, but conceptually you can't. And that's the thing. We have to start thinking conceptually different. Because right now, we say 1 + 1 = 2, but we don't understand that 2 is more than the sum of the parts on a mathematical level. And if you think in information, that's immediately what emerges. The sum is more than just adding the parts. So that's the first consequence that you have. A second one is, you can't anymore say that 1 with a billion zeros is the same as is bigger than 5. You can't say that. Or like is bigger than 1,345,000 blah 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 blah. Because 1 with a trillion zeros can be algorithmically written in a much smaller file. So if you start thinking in information, it's not so much about how big the size is, but it's how much is the complexity of what you try to define. And then you start thinking in entropy rather than just math in our conventional way, which is a complete different way of thinking. The funny thing is, like, it has another consequence. The consequence is every force we experience is truly an entropic force. And you might say, what is this entropic force? It's the compression algorithm. Because if you are constantly, naturally, the most compressed version, because it's more frequent within infinity, then obviously it will bring about compression algorithms that require that. And that's literally all the patterns we experience. The reason why logic exists is because logic is the compression algorithms that allow us to exist in our most compressed form. It is what makes it more likely for us to exist within infinite chaos. That is what logic is. If you truly want to understand what logic is, it's what differentiates us from infinite chaos. It's what allows us to emerge. And you might still say, like, okay. So what are you saying? You're just information. How does that work? Every moment that you experience takes place in the now. You could still argue maybe there's a timeline, but you can say, like, why do I still experience time then when everything takes place in the now? How does that work? Because a file that expresses itself, that has the previous events within it, will experience the past as the past and the future as unknown. So our experience of the past is merely an illusion within the now. And then you might say, like, yeah, but if that is accurate what you're saying, then there is infinite versions of you. And then I would say, like, first of all, there is no such a thing as you. You is just a construct of identity. Secondly, there is an infinite versions. And that's what's called the many world theory. If you guys look it up. Every single decision you have made has happened. So instead of starting to think like, thinking in time and space, you just start thinking in like in information packages that expresses itself. And you're either part of the information or you're not. And as every single moment progresses, it becomes more common or less common. And that's it. But the odds are defined by the reference frame, by you emerging. Because the next one in infinite chaos that requires me to exist requires specific mathematical patterns in order to, to create this illusion of time and space, this illusion of consistency. And if you put that in even a bigger context, like the equation of the universe, then suddenly it all makes sense. And I know what I'm saying here is very hard for people to grasp, but I'm telling you right now, this is going to be online, what I'm saying. And they will build a theory of everything based on this because it's falsifiable. Do you understand that? And whenever I went to scientists, they said this is philosophy. I said no, because it's falsifiable. You can prove whether this is right or if this is true or not. But they didn't listen. They didn't listen because of ego and identity, because of their core value. I already could have figured out the universe. We could have already figured it out if people would just listen. But people don't listen. People don't care about logic at all. And this is just me, by the way, coming up with this shit. I didn't, submit myself to math or to physics or to quantum physics. I'm just, a creational, user thinking about it from my perspective. Imagine if that was my course. Imagine my course students would think like me. And I'm not even that intelligent either, like smart. I'm not that smart. I just had the luck that I had the right emotional intelligence and the right, brain in order to come up with logic as a core value. That's it. I'm telling you right now, we will come up with new math that will explain everything based on what I just said. Because I didn't just take even math for granted. Even logic, I questioned it. I questioned logic itself. And it's by finding the answer, why logic even exists, that I had absolute faith in it. I never gave up. I always wanted to understand. Logic emerges naturally from infinite chaos. And you just start thinking differently. So yeah. I wonder how many people even understand, I wonder if people even understand. They don't understand. Most people don't even understand. But this was really important for me. I wanted to make sure that logic was logical. And I figured it out.